Charlotte, welcome to Halloween Daily. Thanks so much for hanging out and talking to us today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, I'm excited to be talking about this movie, In a Violent Nature. It's the horror movie of the moment right now as we're speaking. Everybody's talking about it, and you're at the center of a lot of that talk. Your character, and of course, a very memorable scene that we're going to get into, and I'm excited to break down with you today. But maybe you can start by telling us a little bit about how you initially got involved with this project and would come to play the character of Aurora.
Yeah, so I got an audition for the project in a couple years ago and through my agents, and there was very little information on it initially, just like a short character description. And yeah, it was a fun scene that I did, and I did the audition. And then once I got the call back, I got the full script. And yeah, that's how I got into it.
Now, when and again, we'll tell people now because I want to talk about your scenes in particular. So we're just gonna put up a general spoiler warning. If anybody hasn't seen the film, it's out now. But you might just want to pause this interview and watch it because I do want to get into some specifics here in a minute. But when you initially got that full script, was there any indication in there that this scene was going to be as crazy as it turned out to be? I mean, how was it described to you in the beginning?
Yeah, so it was all in the script. Um, yeah, I had to read it multiple times to let it sort of sink in and to actually comprehend what was going to happen. And then once I talked to the director, Chris, he confirmed that yes, I was going to be turned into a human pretzel. And of course, like reading it definitely was very wild reading it and almost funny because it was just like so outrageous. But being on set and then actually seeing it was made it obviously so much more real. So it definitely happened in like stages. And once we were doing the technical aspects of it on set, that's when I realized I was like, this is huge. This is a big death.
That's when it started hitting home. And you mentioned the comedy of it, because I've rewatched it a couple times, and it didn't strike me as much on the first viewing. The first viewing, I'm just like taken aback, like I think most people are going to be. You're just like it just keeps going. But on repeat viewings, I find myself finding the humor in it, especially in your character, because you have some great lines from the what turns out to be kind of funny, and we think it's funny in one way. And she's like, maybe you can come stretch me out some more, and then we see what happens later, and then in retrospect, it's an even funnier line. But I also love it's something like you sure took your time getting here. I thought you were going to show. And I almost feel like, in a way, that was Chris kind of winking at the audience, like, okay, you've been patient, we've delivered some kills, some off-screen stuff, but here we're about to give you the goods here, so to speak, for the gore hounds out there and the hardcore horror fans. Did you feel some of that too in some of that dialogue?
For sure, because that line was definitely tricky to the line before when maybe you can stretch me out a little more. It was definitely a little tricky to get out like without, someone laughing because it's quite a bold and outrageous thing to say. So yeah, that was definitely tricky to get out, but it obviously made sense. And for the next scene, the next time that you see me, and yeah, it's kind of campy and fun that it all comes together that way.
Absolutely. Now, can you walk us through some of the actual shooting of the scene? I mean, because any details behind the scenes details, And I know you've posted on Instagram recently about getting the body cast, and so yeah, anything you can walk us through as far as being there. And I also have to say, I again on rewatches, I really appreciate. I think the most disturbing moment might be in the beginning when he's already put his hand through and removed his hand, and then you just turn around and kind of look up at him for a few seconds, and it's this kind of lingering moment that's really on, especially again on the rewatches. It's like, man, that's really disturbing what's going on there. So yeah, anything you can tell us about the actual shooting of the scene?
Yeah, so it started off with doing the prosthetics, so the body casting, and they had to make three different uh, body doubles of me or dolls of me, and so that whole body cast situation took about 8 hours, which was pretty wild, and so that was the beginning of it all. And then yeah, they needed three different versions for the takes. And once it was actually quite logistically, it was difficult for the crew to film just because they needed to find a cliff, it needed to be the right weather. So we tried, I think, three different times to film it. And before that, this was the final location, but before that, there were a couple different locations, and it took 2 days to film. So I know for the audience, it feels long, but for me watching it, I was like, wow, that went by so quickly because the filming of it was very long. Um, Very fun. It was really fun to see um, all of the prosthetics, like the how the hook went in, all of like the blood, um, getting that hook in my head. Like it was very fun, and it was fun to see the the artistry of it all as well. Um, it was definitely more complicated than I thought it would be, but yeah, there was a lot of blood and a lot of bugs too. It was in Sault Ste. Marie in May, so it was pretty crazy. But yeah, it that's pretty much how it went, and luckily we were able to do it. I thought for a while that I don't know if this is actually going to happen, but Chris made it happen.
What would you say was the most challenging aspect of pulling it off for you?
For me, I think it was definitely harder for the crew and for Chris Nash to just like logistically to pull everything off, and um working with the dummy and trying to get all of those different takes. So yeah, I think it was harder for the crew than it was for me. But yeah, I think I honestly I was really excited to be there and to be doing this. And I was like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to die in this way. So it was definitely challenging in terms of just trying to fight against the elements. Like the mosquitoes to me are honestly the standout, like trying to do the yoga and um yeah, trying to do that yoga with just like so many bugs surrounding me. And I'm used to bugs. Like I've spent a lot of time in Northern Ontario. That was something else. So that's what the big standout for me is. Other than that, I was just going along for the ride. Yeah.
And you said it was kind of there as you were filming that it was kind of dawning on you really that this was a pretty eh, big kill, as you say, and something. I mean, had it were you thinking at this time that people were going to be talking about it the way they're talking about it now, since the film's been released in the last couple of weeks?
No, I didn't think so. People have had a reaction that I knew it was a very wild and crazy kill for sure, but I didn't I didn't expect to be getting all of the reactions that we've been getting. Yeah.
And now the film, of course, it is unique in that it most of these slashers, would typically follow your character and the other characters that are being stalked, and instead, if people don't know, it sticks with the killer for almost the entire film, and it's very unique in that way. And I found it very fresh and just a different take. And and of course, audiences, some people don't like it as much. They want to stick with the other characters, and so everybody's got their opinions. But when you read that script, again, going back to going into it, was that something that you were excited for, or kind of nervous about? Because again, a lot of your character's action is off screen. Most of the other characters, we hear them talk sometimes and don't even see them. Was that something that attracted you to the project, or something that made you kind of nervous, like how are we going to pull this off?
I was very excited when I read the script, because that was all in the earliest drafts of the script. Um, that was the idea from the beginning, that it was going to be all in the perspective of Johnny the killer. And that is something that I found very unique and exciting. And it was really the way that it was written out in the script was very clear to me and very interesting. And even the leaves moving as Johnny moves, for me, it felt like, oh, this is kind of like Johnny is part of nature, and nature's getting its revenge, almost, is what it felt like me for me when I first read it. It changed a little bit as I watched it, but yeah, so it was very interesting for me, and then it made me very excited to do the project.
Well, and I've said here that I think the title is perfect. I can't imagine a more fitting title, and it just works on so many levels to me. Um, Especially having seen it again on a couple rewatches. Um, Now, were you a horror fan yourself, going into this, or are you a horror fan? Do you are you familiar with slashers like we are, like our audience? We're very familiar with we love our slashers, especially our masked killers, which Johnny is a new addition to that pantheon.
I have had slow introduction back to horror. Um, Probably. I don't think I could watch. I watched The Ring when I was really young, and that scarred me. So I don't think I could watch another horror movie until like after high school. I think the first movie I watched after that was Hereditary, and which was also really terrifying, but I got through it, and I feel like once I started, I continued, and then for the past few years, and especially since doing this project, I've been um, getting more into it. And yes, I do like horror a lot now.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm sure our audience is good to hear, because you're part of the genre now with this film, and with this character. Now, after filming, of course, and I know the film, it did festivals and screenings before its current theatrical release. But when did you finally see the finished film and get to see this whole thing put together, including your scene? And what was your reaction on that after that first viewing?
We saw it. There was a private screening, which I was, there was a private screening in Toronto for the cast and crew. And I was really excited to be able to watch it there in a more enclosed space, um, than the first time being at Sundance. Although it was really fun watching it with an audience there as well. But yeah, so we had a private screening first and then watched it at Sundance. It was a very surreal experience. I think I kind of like feel like I blacked out at parts. It was a very like out of body experience, to see how that all came together. But I remember like the first thought was, I was like, wow, it looks so beautiful, all of the shots of Johnny walking, and I was really It wasn't how I imagined it would be. Um, not in a bad way or a good way. It was just different. It was definitely surprised me, and made me super excited. But yeah, it was really cool, because you just have the script, and then when you're filming it, you're not always seeing the frames as an actor. So to watch it all to come together was super exciting, and I was really happy to be a part of that. Yeah, a lot of different emotions going on.
I was struck by the just the beauty, of the cinematography, the shooting of the nature too, and
Yeah.
I felt like, again, that's why that title to me is so fitting, because it's almost a nature film, but with these spikes of slasher style violence that it kind of walks that line in a unique way. Um, Now the film, as we're recording this, it's out in theaters right now, and like I said, it's kind of the talk of the horror community right now. Everybody's um, it's a topic of discussion, and just a few days ago, as we're recording this, Stephen King himself, the legend, basically tweeted his approval of it, that he dug it and he liked it. And I don't know if you saw that tweet, but it's kind of, in this genre, obviously that's a stamp of approval. That'll be on the Blu-ray cover, I imagine, when that time comes. So when you see something like that, and you're hearing some of these reviews, and some of these audience reactions, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, I mean, Stephen King is obviously a legend. Um, and it that was crazy. I mean, with the producer of the film, um, Peter Kaplowski sent that in like our group chat when when that tweet came out. And I think we were all like freaking out. And I sent it to my parents because obviously being in a horror movie, my parents were obviously a little bit skeptical to see it and a little nervous to see it. And, I said it has Stephen King's stamp of approval. Now you have to see it. Um, yeah, it's huge and it's crazy and a huge honor that he saw it and liked it.
And you said your parents were on the fence about seeing it. You said, now have they seen it yet, or they're going to?
My dad's seen it.
And what did he think? What was his reaction?
He was in shock for sure. I warned him.
Yeah.
And I said, you can close my eyes like when you see this part, or when you can close your eyes when you see me on that cliff,
Yeah.
like something that's when it happens. But he watched it and yeah, he liked it. He cannot watch horror movies usually, but he said he liked it. I think he was in definitely in shock though.
And of course, we've talked to some of your co-stars here, and I'm always curious. I love to hear, what was your favorite memory from the set?
I think there were a lot of fun memories on set. It was we were like before going into filming, I wondered, I had never done anything like this before, so I had wondered if it was going to be a bit of more of like a dark experience or if I would possibly be scared on set. Um, and if it would have sort of a somber feel, but I think it actually had quite the opposite of that. There needed to be humor and lightness to get through that, and the whole cast and crew were very warm, a lot of really funny people on set. Um, so there were a lot of good times on set, and we were filming in Sault Ste. Marie, which is like a small town in northern Ontario, and there was a karaoke bar right across from the hotel, and that was like that was a great bar. It was super fun to do karaoke with everyone. Yeah, and the campfire scene, I'm saying like multiple things now, but the campfire scene was really fun to film as well because most of the cast was there. So that was fun to have everyone there, and the way it came together, I thought was really cool as well.
Very cool. And and like I said, I mean the film it's out now. Johnny, you know, he's got a very unique look. He's got a unique mask, and I asked your other co-stars if they're ready to start seeing Johnny costumes out there. You know, every day's Halloween for us, but Halloween season, I can see Johnny out there. I certainly at conventions, I can see Johnny cosplay out there, and when we talked to Andre, you know, she'd love to see Johnny and Chris as a couple's costume. I could also see couples doing a Johnny and Aurora combo. I mean, I could, especially at some conventions we've been to, I could see that happening. Or have you thought about that at all? And are you ready to start seeing stuff like that?
I have not thought about that. Someone did show me that there was a costume online, or I don't know if that's real, but someone did show me that. But I haven't, that would be so wild to see, um, but so much fun, you know. I would love that to see Johnny around. It would be really weird to see, I don't know if that will happen. It would be really weird to see someone dressed as the Aurora character. But it would be a great costume if you could like figure out the hook in the stomach. Yeah, I think that would be great and so much fun.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, we've been to a lot of conventions, seen a lot of cool, creative cosplay, and again on rewatches, I'm like, yeah, it's just a matter. Somebody is at home at work on their Aurora cosplay right now. I think it's going to happen. You're going to get those tags on Instagram any day now, and I can't wait to see them. And it's great to hear that you mentioned that it was overall a positive and fun experience for you because you know we've been lucky enough to talk to a lot of cool people who have worked on some really brutal hardcore horror movies, a lot of the people that played the killers and the victims and so forth, and but we often hear that as soon as it's cut it's all fun and games and everybody's a family and having fun with it, and it's not like an emotionally draining thing like you said, like it could be under different circumstances, I imagine, but it is great to hear that this was you know, a positive fun experience for you, despite the fact that your character might disagree, but
Yeah.
it was fun doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think for the crew, again, logistically, there were a lot of things that happened that was outside anyone's control, like the bugs, weather conditions, so many different things that happened that was like really difficult for the crew. So it was really lucky that everyone had honestly just a really warm, easygoing personality. So it made it really fun for me and in the cast. Um, at least I can speak for myself in that it was, yeah, persevered and it was a really fun experience.
Awesome. Well, it's definitely an awesome movie, and you know, again, congrats on all of its success. Do you think you would do another genre film now? Because again, I mean, this people are going to see this, and if do you think you'd step into this genre again if given the opportunity?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was so surprised that in each, I've said this, but the before, but like how warm everyone was on set. I mean, there are a million reasons why it was a really fun and amazing experience, but also just being part of, I'm really liking being part of now like the horror community, people watching it with us at the audience in Sundance, to being in Toronto and watching it here and doing the Q&As. horror fans are truly like the best. They're yeah, just passionate, and um they're really just like gung-ho about the genre, and people have been so warm and amazing about the film. So it's really exciting to be part of this community, and I would love to continue to be a part of it.
Very cool. Are there any upcoming projects that you can plug or want to tell us about?
There's nothing out right now in terms
Okay.
of very beginning of stages of stuff, so nothing that I can tell people to watch right now.
Okay.
But hopefully I can soon.
Absolutely. We'll be looking forward to that, obviously. Now, before we let you go, if you'll indulge us, obviously, every day is Halloween for us, and as we're recording this again, it's early June, but it's always Halloween for us. So, if you'll tell us just a little bit about, I know you grew up in Canada, if I'm not mistaken. Can you tell us a little bit about what Halloween means to you? Do you celebrate now? Do you have memories of growing up celebrating? And what's the holiday for you?
Well, I think as an actor and liking using my imagination a lot as a kid and wanting to be an actor as a kid, there was a curiosity in what it's like to be other people or put yourself in other people's shoes. So Halloween has been really fun for me in that way, to dress up as different people. And yeah, to explore um, your imagination in that way and explore different dark parts of yourself and people around you. So it was fun in that way. And yeah, I also went to like the haunted in Toronto. They have Canada's Wonderland, and it's a um, what's it called? A theme park.
Mhm.
And every Halloween they do I'm sure this is all over the place, but they do like the immersive haunted house experiences. So as a kid through high school, I don't know why we did that. Like I would not do that right now. That would be way too terrifying for me to be someone like chasing after you. Um, but that was a big part of my Halloween growing up. But yeah, the biggest part for me as an actor would be the funnest part for me about Halloween is dressing up and getting to be someone else.
Very cool. And it does sound like, from early on, Halloween has kind of bled into that performance, and like you said, wanting to play other characters, which is awesome.
For sure.
Now it's a little bit like every day's Halloween for you too, it sounds like.
Yeah, hopefully that's the goal.
I mean, have you known for since you were young that acting was where you were going to go?
I mean, I knew it was something that I definitely wanted to do. I didn't know how that was gonna pan out, but yeah, I think ever since I can remember, that was what I wanted to do. Um, I was definitely like in my head a lot as a kid, and I loved playing imaginary games. And um, I did that until I was like probably way too old to be doing it. um, and there was just a lot of, yeah, curiosity. And like I said earlier, what it was like to be someone else. So I think I always had that since I was very little. And then as I got older and in high school, I was able to express that through school plays, and yeah,
It is so interesting to talk to so many people in this profession that say similar things, that part of their passion they can kind of trace back to Halloween, like you said, and
hmm
the joy of just becoming somebody else for a few hours, and they can kind of trace that into becoming a performer. And I love that you mentioned the haunts, because that's another thing, you know. I mean, Universal Studios, they do these Halloween haunts. I mean, I could see at some point, who knows, there might be a violent nature themed haunt out there somewhere, and you might be walking through and facing Johnny again in a haunt at some point.
That would be crazy. Yeah. I don't know
And
if I could go to that, but
I hear you. Might sit that one out, or just watch the walkthrough on YouTube. Watch somebody else's walkthrough on YouTube.
yeah. Yeah, just watch it from afar.
I hear you. I hear you. Fair enough. So, and our last question, back to Halloween, we always like to ask everybody, what is your favorite Halloween costume that you've ever worn, and your favorite Halloween candy?
My favorite costume that I've ever worn is I was Eminem. I just feel like it was a great costume. That was like 5 years ago, but I haven't had a better one since. I haven't had a better idea since. I just got into it. I liked that one. I feel like the costume was just spot on and a lot of fun. This year, I think I would like to be the girl from Possession, and like with all the blood down.
Yeah.
It was fun. I realized on set how fun it was to have that much blood on you, just to like let go in that way. So that would be fun. And my favorite Halloween candy would be cherry blasters. Do they have those in the States? Sour cherry blasters?
I don't think they're called cherry blasters. They have like gushers or something, I think is a similar thing here.
Yeah.
Um, but it's like got the chewy center. Is that
Yeah, it's like sour, cherry, chewy, sugary candy. Yeah.
nice? Very cool. Awesome. That sounds great. Well, again, I can't thank you enough for hanging out with us today. This has been awesome, just learning more about you and about shooting this awesome movie. And again, we're going to be following along and watching you in future projects, I'm sure. And I'm sure we'll have you back on here to talk about them when the time's right. But this has just been awesome.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate it. And thank you
And
for having me on here.
well, again, my pleasure. I love the movie and I love your work in it. It's great. And again, I can't thank you enough for taking the time. Instead of saying goodbye, since every day's Halloween, we always just say Happy Halloween.
Okay, happy Halloween.